Yeah, as I mentioned, the long-term vision for this is something that kind of connects multiple neighborhoods to their waterfront in more substantial kind of interesting ways. And so that's definitely something that we're thinking about moving forward. Um, and I think that really exploiting that connection based upon the East River Ferry Pier there could be something really special. And we were thinking about it this year, but like I said, there are so many kind of moving pieces to fit together. But in the future, that's definitely something we're focused on.
Yeah, one of our hopes, might be that this, instead of like just having this mass that just kind of grows in Greenpoint, like have the Greenpoint Festival and then just add another festival site that's also by water. So this idea of like little villages connected for that night.
Would it remain in Brooklyn or move to Manhattan? But there's satellite.
It really depends on, what we've really found is that because we did a project with the new museum in the interim, and we thought, oh well, we'll do something on Bowery, or we'll do, and what we've really found is it really takes people kind of coming to us. Like we just can't do it everywhere. Like I guess what I'm trying to say is like the pastor of Old St. Patrick's Cathedral. We reached out to him and he said, this is really interesting, and I know people on Mulberry Street, and we'd love to have you here. So it really just kind of grows in a way that we have this idea and we find residents and people and building owners that are interested in it. So I don't know where it will go next. I think that it's hard enough to do what we do right now, and I think that the hope is to continue to find spots. And I don't know, Ken, what do you think? Where do you think?
We've been talking to partners in Red Hook. We're very interested in Red Hook as a neighborhood. It's one of my favorite places in New York City, and I think there's kind of an interesting emerging art community there. There are a lot of parallels actually to Greenpoint in terms of large artist community, industrial areas that are kind of thinking about developing new identities, interesting lingering industrial structures, and then relative isolation, but also kind of a community that is in the immediate area, and then also being right there on the water. So as Tom was saying, you could have an experience where you could be in Red Hook and then you could take a ferry to Greenpoint or to Lower Manhattan or Staten Island or Governor's Island or any number of places. But yeah, your suggestion about activating the pier, it's definitely part of our intention. And it's so exciting to think about what the festival was like last year, and this year now there's the pier. That's this amazing asset that can be added, and next year there'll be Transmitter Park, and shortly thereafter maybe there'll be Bushwick Inlet Park, and these other elements that as the neighborhood is able to kind of reconnect to its waterfront, for this one night, there can be kind of an artistic means of activating these spaces.
But to be clear, as Ethan said, we aren't talking about expanding until we're covering all of Greenpoint or anything. We want to be strategic about spaces as they are developed and present different opportunities. So if we were to focus on Transmitter and the pier, things would kind of shift, They would explore new parts of the neighborhood, which could be an exciting way to think about it.
The other thing that I just throw out to people that just have a question that we're dealing with right now in the city is, the city, in terms of the permits, they grudgingly allow you to go to 11 o'clock or to midnight. Obviously having sensitivity to noise in the neighborhood, and in Europe and other cities that do this, this is a dusk till dawn event, and we don't know whether New York will ever let us do that. One advantage of going later, I can see, is that last year when we shut down at 11 or midnight, basically then all the 5,000 to 10,000 people had to go home all at once, right? So it's like, okay, party's over, and then everybody moves. However, what we've heard from the people who organize this in Toronto is that it stays open later, then people kind of drift out, and it's not this sort of mass exodus. So these are the kinds of things that we're trying to talk with the city about, like what makes sense, what are you guys comfortable with, is it possible to do this in New York or not? Is it possible to do this in a neighborhood? We were working with Stephen about really okay, how should we tell people to walk to this festival, right? Just structurally, the way that Greenpoint is and the way that people coming from Williamsburg will be walking, how do we get them to go down to Kent and then walk across along Greenpoint Ave where there are less residents? And this may be something, Stephanie and I, we talk about in the future, like maybe we have we have some art in East River Park next year so that there's a reason to have them come down and then move over. So, we're trying to, in a lot of different ways, we're trying to figure
What
it out.
about banners, just as they direct you to the East River Ferry? I mean, if there's something, that you just for a night, something paint or something that you will just wash off the sidewalks, that you
Yeah.
can just, direct people this way, do some, way of informing people beforehand with your PR, like this is the way we're going to suggest you guys move, and just get people used to the cues.
Yeah. I mean, there could be something with like chalk or something like something that
I mean, my nephew does guerrilla advertising like that all the time in Seattle.
Right.
So it's,
yeah.
I don't know if you're serious about expanding this to other neighborhoods, and I don't know if you could get a permit to do this, but just as an image, if you could coordinate with the East River Waterway to make the stops, the hubs being what the stops are, the Astoria, Greenpoint, Williamsburg, South Williamsburg, and Dumbo.